Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the cheapest team for the Open Great League. I already made a video about the most expensive one earlier today, which was a really good video, so definitely check that one out as well. And I saw a lot of comments that they want to see the cheapest team as well, so let's take a look at it. We're going to have a team here with the Pidgeot, the Dubwool, as well as the Swampert. Yes, you're going to have some legacy moves here, for example the Wing Attack on the Pidgeot, plus also the Hydro Cannon on the Swampert, but for especially the Swampert there were several times where we were able to get this move, but also I feel like especially for like the Elite Fast TM, like we have like so many opportunities already where you were able to get them, so that I feel like at least that Elite TMs and like Elite moves are not really the biggest issue. But let me know in the comment section how you think about this. Do you think that this is going to make this a little bit more expensive? I'm not sure about it. I have like so many Elite TMs that I feel like they're kinda, yeah, I don't know, like I don't really know what to do with them, so I kind of decided to put them in here as well. So two Pokemon that going to have legacy moves, but otherwise we're going to have the Dubwool as a safe swap. I tried out a team that was similar to this before, where we were running the Greedent as a safe swap, but I felt like Greedent just didn't have the fast move pressure that I would have liked. So Double Kick was a little bit better for me, and also the Wild Charge was a little bit better for me as well, which I'm running here mainly to cover for something like the Poliwrath, which just got one-shotted by a Brave Bird. Otherwise, we are very close to the 70,000 subscribers. I would love to reach this one before we're going to have the new year, so we have like 2 days left. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, would really appreciate it, because we are so close to the 70,000 subscribers. I think like 200 are missing still, which would be so nice if we would be able to still hit it. But yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. But let's take a look at the team a little bit more. We are going to use the Pidgeot in the lead. I tried this team before with Swampert in the lead, and I encountered so many grass types in the lead, so I decided to just swap it up. You can just swap around depending on what kind of meta you're going to encounter, so it would be also okay to have your Swampert in the lead, use your safe swap of the Dubwool or even Vigoroth if you have like the more expensive variant of it basically, and then you have the Pidgeot in the back, which would also work out pretty well. For Swampert, I would actually recommend you to go for the non-shadow variant. I feel like it's currently a little bit better to play, but I don't have a non-shadow variant build, slash I don't have a Pokemon like a Swampert, whatever, that I would want to build that would be non-shadow, so we have hopefully soon another event where we would be able to get the Mudkip. Would appreciate it, of course, but we will see how that's going to go. Also, we want to see how this matchup going to go. We're going to have the Gusload against us. We will be able to actually still get the shield from the opponent, and I can still reach a Brave Bird with the Pidgeot, and Pidgeot was so underrated. Honestly, like this Pokemon is so insanely strong. We will be able to farm them all the way down. They're going to have only the Deoxys left, and we can just farm them down here with our Swampert to win this game. Next opponent coming up, we're going to encounter a Dragonair in the lead. This is going to be something where I decide to swap out immediately into my Dubwool. As soon as you're going to be able to hit a Body Slam will not knock them out, but we're going to be able to get them low enough that we would be able to put them into a farm down range for either even Mudshot or the Wing Attack, which is super important, but they decide to swap out, which is a little bit awkward. We have the Wild Charge, which is not really ideal, but we get rid of one of the hardest, if not the hardest answer for Swampert currently, which is going to be really good for us. So this is exactly how this team can supposed to work. We have a very neutral lead, and we have a very great core of our lead as well as our Pokemon in the back that just work out so well together that we usually get out the Pokemon that we don't want to face with the Pokemon in the back with our safe swap of the Dubwool. Here, we're going to be able to just go for the full farm down. They don't even get to another charge move, and they're going to go ahead and go back into the Dragonair, allowing me to go for a Brave Bird. If they let this move go through, it's fine. If they're going to shield this, it's going to be fine. But they actually swapped out into the Lickitung, and I did not really see this, and I shouldn't have swapped out here, I would say, because, of course, Lick Damage is double resisted on my lead. But we are going to still be able to use a shield here. We can go for the full farm down, we're going to have some energy with that, and we will definitely still reach a move with my Swampert, but I'm not sure if we're going to still be able to win this game, because the Dragonair is looking in a prime position here to sweep this game. They gotta still go for a charge move against our Swampert. Can we still go for a charge move with our Pidgeot is the question here. We will see if we can. We cannot, and I feel like I threw this game. I feel like against the Lickitung, if I stayed in, I would have had a way better time, but so be it. Let's move on to the next game. But also, let's take a look here now at the next game. We're going to have the Lickitung in the lead. We were seeing a loss before, but it's really nice to see, like, okay, I was able to win this game. I played a little bit differently, so it's, like, great to know for the upcoming games that this was also, like, not a loss based on team comp or, like, because there was, like, a big hole in the team, or just because I didn't really play it perfectly. Here we're going to see the matchup against the Lickitung, and I feel like this is a way to go. You kind of want to debuff them first, because one Brave Bird is not enough after, like, in general, before you go for a Feather Dance, but now I feel like this should be the range for a Brave Bird to knock out a Lickitung. Let's see if that's actually going to be the range. It is, and we can get the knockout. They swap out into the Lantern, and we're gonna get out the Victory Bell, and this is insanely important, of course. because we don't really want to have the victory bell against our Swampert. And this kind of how this team is supposed to work. You kind of want to get out a potential grass-type Pokemon with your Say-Stop into the double while you still can do some decent damage here and even get 2 shields most likely with that Pokemon. And it's going to be such a great time for us. We're going to have now a 2-shield advantage, which we're going to lose now immediately. But even though I can use just a shield here, we should be just fine getting to even a Feather Dance against the opponent's Lantern. And what is the Lantern now supposed to do against a Swampert? Like, it cannot do anything. A double debuffed Surf is not going to do any damage, and we still have a shield left, so there is no way in hell that the opponent is going to be able to win this game. We can go for the Earthquake, and so this is going to be it for this one. Goodbye, boom. Next opponent, we will see the Nidoqueen. That's an interesting Pokemon. Kind of want to take a look at Nidoqueen as well. Maybe something like an ABB style with the Clodsire, because I feel like Clodsire is really good. What I encountered quite often, not with this team, but in general, like I did a lot of battles after this team as well, was that I encountered a ton of Wigglytuff, ton of Victory Bell, and a ton of Bastion. And so Clodsire plus Nidoqueen are going to be great Pokemon to counter those. So I wonder if like this team would have a little bit of a play as well, especially as most water types are currently water and electric in terms of Lantern. But it would be a little bit tricky to have a ABB backline with the Clodsire as well as the Nidoqueen if you encounter something like a Swampert. So you have to basically have something like, I don't know, maybe like a Dragonite in the lead, a Shadow Dragonite would make a lot of sense. Here we're going to see a Charger Bug, and I decided to go for the Brave Bird because everybody expects that you're going to go for the bait here. And so I'm not going to go for the bait, allowing me to do a ton of damage against them, but this game is not over yet. I'm forced to use a shield against the Exeter, and they're still going to get to another one, which I'm going to let go through here, but it's still not going to be a great matchup for us. We just barely get to one move here. The Gligar still has a ton of energy. I can still go for 2 Hydro Cannons, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I still have to reach another Hydro Cannon after this one. The opponent got to a move here. So this game is very likely over already, as we are gonna still try our best, but the opponent, wait a minute. They actually didn't go for the CMP tie here. And so we can go for the CMP tie directly afterwards, and Shadow Swampert actually is still going to be able to win this game. What a game there. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have the Charger Bug in the lead. This is going to be a really bad lead for us, so we swap out immediately into our double, which is not really ideal either because the fast moves are of course resisted, but we can still go for the neutral body slam and we're gonna be able to hit hard with that. But the opponent makes a great play in swapping into the Shadow Gligar here, which is not really ideal for us either. But I guess, I mean, the matchup for Gligar against Swampert is really interesting because Gligar is actually fairly decent against Swampert. But here we're going to be able to just let this next move go through. It's going to be the Aerial Ace from the opponent. And I can go for the full farm down with my Pidgeot against the opponent here as well. I'm going to not use a shield on the Aerial Ace. I think I can just go for the full farm down before they get to another move. And yes, we will be able to do so. And so I'm going to do the exact same thing as before, going straight for the Brave Bird. And we're going to hit it again, showcasing how going for the bait sometimes would not work out as well, but here going straight for the nuke helps out quite a bit. We're gonna have the Azumarill in the back, which is going to make this a little bit awkward because Azumarill is a tricky one to deal with, especially after the Earthquake nerf. It's not really as ideal for us to battle against. I'm going to use a shield on my Swampert because I feel like that's going to be the best way to use a shield, but they're gonna go for the Ice Beam, which is a little bit tricky. We are up to 100 energy, which is kind of mad, as they try to swap out into the Pidgeot soon, but I can still go for the Earthquake in time, which is going to be able to hit hard, but we have to try to catch an Ice Beam. It did not work out, and so we're barely not going to be able to reach the Brave Bird there, just one turn away from it, and so the opponent can still go for another Ice Beam here, and sadly we're going to lose this one here, but it's still kind of a fine team to be fair. Next opponent, we're going to encounter the Granbull in the lead. This is going to be a very tricky one. You kind of want to swap out eventually. I decided to stay in for a little bit just because I know they can guarantee a shield, but it's very likely that they're going to have something like a Victory Bell in the back, so I kind of still have to keep my lead alive. But the opponent decides to swap out into the Bastion, which is not a bad matchup for me, but also not the greatest either. I decided to go for a Body Slam first because my plan is to take a charge move from the opponent, and Wild Charge would not allow me to do that, so here I am going to still go for the Wild Charge though, because the opponent just didn't want to go for a charge move, which is kind of awkward, and I can still realign if I want to, but I'm not sure how much realignment really going to help me, as the opponent survives with a 1 HP. Like, honestly, it's like so sad. Like, if he just didn't lift this with 1 HP, it would have been so much better. We're gonna see the Granbull coming back in. I can at least still go for a Feather Dance, which is the best thing I can go for, but it's going to come down now. If our Swampert with 2 shields can do it, we have a Superior in the back, literally hard counter. Honestly, there are some that you're going to be able to win, there's some that you're going to lose, it is fine. Sometimes you just get completely hard-walled, but for being such a cheap team basically to build, I feel like this is definitely something that is kinda nice for starters. Like, it's a very easy team to build. Like, you kinda want to swap out with your double eventually, you have to kinda keep your lead alive. Even though this is not an ABB style line, more like an ABC style line, you still kinda want to get out a potential answer for the Pokemon that you have in the back here in terms of the Swampert. If you swap out, for example, here, we were able to get out the Lurantis, which would have been a hard answer for our Swampert, but thanks to our swap, we were able to now align actually our Swampert against the Lurantis, because I know that I have to swap out anyway, because of the hard lead loss we had in the beginning with the Sandslash, and so I got a ton of energy here for free against the Lurantis with my Swampert, plus also I waited out the switch clock a little bit longer, which is going to allow me to swap out a little bit easier later on, but here, you're gonna go for one Hydro Cannon, the opponent decides to use a shield, so I can go for another one, and this should be enough to knock out the opponent, and they decide to also forfeit with their Lantern in the back. Next opponent coming through, we're going to have an Alolan Sandslash again in the lead, so we decide to swap out immediately into our double. Getting out the Altaria is actually not the worst thing, because you don't want to have the Altaria against your Swampert, so getting this Pokemon out of the way is definitely a very cool thing to do. Of course, if you want to upgrade your lead a little bit, you can go for Skarmory, which would give you a little bit of a better answer against those Dragon-type Pokemon as well for this team, which might be a little bit of an issue, but then again, like, you're going to invest a little bit too much Stardust into those Pokemon. Here, we're going to be able to just use a shield against the opponent's Dazzling Gleam, which is not what you want to run the Moonblast, but of course if you only have limited amount of Elite Charge TMs, it's totally fine to run Dazzling Gleam as well, it doesn't really make the biggest of a difference. Here we're gonna be able to still go for some body slams against the opponent's Whiscash. I see a lot of people being annoyed on how I say Whiscash or something, so I think because I always say like Wishcast or something, I don't know. Honestly, like, people are a little bit upset about some pronunciation, which helps the algorithm, so write all the comments about Whiscash, please, helps me out so much, thanks so much, man. But yeah, we're going to see how right now the Hydro Cannon going to be able to get the shield from the opponent, but sadly, we are not going to really have enough shields left. I think I could have played this game up a little bit better as well. Before I swapped into my Swampert, I should have went for a Feather Dance with my, what's called with my Pidgeot, which would have allowed me to survive some more moves, but sadly like this, we're going to lose this game and we can move on to the final one. Final game here for today, going to be a little bit of a longer one. We're going to have an okay lead, I guess a great lead to be fair. If you run something like the Skarmory, it's going to be a little bit more tricky against Pokemon like Poliwrath, where Pokemon in the back like Wishcat is going to be a little bit better than the Swampert, because you're going to be able to go for something like a Mud Bomb a little bit easier than for something like an Earthquake. Here we see the swap out into the Lickitung, which I don't really understand, but I definitely take, and I can just go for the Feather Dance. Swap out, get a ton of energy here, and of course we're going to run a Wild Charge, which means if they want to go back into the Poliwrath eventually, like, this would be totally okay for us. But let's take a look at this. We're going to be able to just go up to 100 energy basically. We can just go for our Body Slam. I'm going to get them low. We're just going to try to get the full Farmland after this. I feel like, I'm not sure how much a Body Slam actually going to do. Actually a little bit less than I expected, so maybe we are still forced to go for another charge move instead. But they're gonna go for the Body Slam spam, not doing too much damage, and yes, I'm forced to go for another charge move, which is fine. I can take it. I can just go for one Body Slam here. They swap back into their Poliwrath, and I'm gonna go for the bait. Because I expect them to use a shield here eventually, I'm gonna go for the bait, and it was, I guess, still a fair play. Like, the Wild Charge would have knocked them out, but this is going to be able to get the shield and get some damage onto them, which I feel like is a fair thing to do, because now I can use a shield here. I can either go for a Brave Bird way later on, or I can go for the debuff here. And it turns out they're going to have the Cresselia in the back, which is going to be a very bad matchup for me, because what is my Swampert supposed to do? This is going to be a very tricky one to still win. We see here the Grass Knot coming through, should get the knockout most likely, but actually it doesn't because of the double debuff onto their attack. And now we're going to see a CMP tie from the Hydro Cannon onto their Grass Knot, meaning that the opponent is going to be energy dry. And what I'm going to try to do here is I have to think that the opponent is going to swap out eventually, but they don't. And I don't think their switch clock was actually up, so this was a mistake by me, but because I expect them to swap, I decided to go straight for the charge move, which was a great play by me, because like this, the opponent does not get the counter damage through, and I can still reach the Brave Bird. So now with this one, our Pidgeot was able to sweep the end game, and this was a super close one at the end. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, subscribe. We are so close to the 70,000 subscribers. Feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you then in the next video. Bye bye.